Welcome to Brothers of the Serpent podcast, also known as
Snake Bros. And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, angels and demons and monsters and serpents, to Brothers of the Serpent podcast, coming to you not live from the 10 by 10 by 10 tangent cube of science, nestled amongst the dusty bones of an ancient seabed high atop the Edwards Plateau. And we have a guest in studio with us tonight, Brenner, who just went on a long trip out down the Pecos River. Pecos down the Pecos River. He got a bunch of petroglyphs in the stone, and we're going to look at those because we're like probably most of you know, Robert Schock was on with Joe Rogan, and he was talking about this stuff, and that was blowing my mind. And so just so happens that Brenner was on the Pecos River looking at these same petroglyphs that are found all over the world that are probably, not saying this for sure, but probably of plasma forms that were seen in the sky during the last cataclysm. I'm just saying. I'm just saying.
That's obviously what they were.
That's right.
I always wondered, dude, and he brought up the Rongo writing.
Yeah.
Did you hear that part?
I heard that part,
But he didn't talk about the Rido.
Okay,
right.
so we had talked about the Rido. Yeah.
Sorry.
We talked about those patterns, like they look like these little shaman guys.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? And they're in different positions or whatever.
Yeah.
The Rongo writing looks like that, and then there's another type of writing from Turkey somewhere.
It's from India / Pakistan. It's the Indus Valley civilization's writing. Yeah, that they have never.
Yeah, there's just and they've never broken the codec or whatever.
They look a lot like the Rongo writing.
Shaman guys.
All these shamans. Yeah.
Yeah.
The Rongo is like they're actually filled out, or let's see, how would you say it? They're outlined. So they have an interior. They have an interior space. So like the shaman guy it's an outline, whereas the stuff at the Indus Valley is just a single line. That's the only difference, but otherwise they're all the same shapes.
That's right.
Yeah. And that may be, well, I don't know, but that may be because of the way or the stuff that they were carving it into.
I wonder if it was because the Rongo is just like one. There are just like a couple of pieces of wood that have like all these things.
That's right.
What if it was just them drawing all the different?
That may be why we
symbols
can't
they saw in the
translate it.
sky?
Yeah. They may have thought it was in the need to be translated, a message from the gods.
The finger of God writing in the sky.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. And okay, so from the last show.
Mine, take him, something. It's like what the finger of God wrote on the wall in Babylon.
That's right. That's right. But we talk about the shamir, the tool that they used to cut stone, was also called the finger of God.
Yeah.
So like from a long distance, the guy was all right, like lightsabering it into the wall while they were he's way up there on a cliff, and they're like, "Oh my God!" And it's like being written on the wall right next to them, right?
And he was kind of trying to say, Babylon is mine. It's mine.
Right. It's all messed up.
It's mine. I'm taking it.
Yeah, and they're like, Mine,
take it. Something.
You heard it here first, folks.
Yeah.
Okay. So a couple of things from the last show that I wanted to come back to real quickly. You totally dissed my idea that the Hypogeum was like a giant blender.
That's
right. But let's go back to the idea that I just want to point this out. I still may be wrong. But the rooms, all of them, all the way down to the bottommost level, were full of unstratigraphied sediment. Okay? Which means that there aren't layers in the sediment, which means it was all deposited at the same time. Or if there were multiple inundations, it had to be strong enough to stir it all up and mix it to drop it all down at once. Blender.
They could have all run out. They could have all run out when they, no, that's not going to work. Hold on.
Okay, so is the Hypogeum a large hollow space?
And it's multiple levels. It's yes. So
levels and
there's tunnels and huge rooms and like what they call cathedrals and stuff in there. There's all these different spaces, and it goes down multiple levels into the ground on Malta. Okay.
Levels as in
down in the rock. So they were so imagine you were carving your house out and it was a 3-story house. You went down, so you would go down 3 levels into the stone. Okay, and there'd be stairs and everything going down to each level. So it's like that. So it's huge. It's big enough to hold thousands of people. Okay. And when they first found it, they broke into it, and not in the entrance that it was initially made, but they broke into it on a different part. Every room was like 2/3 full of unstratigraphied sediment, which means it was all laid down at the same time. Or if it was laid down multiple times, each time it was mixed up enough to where it became unstratigraphied. And the sediment was full of the bones of animals and between 9,000 and 30,000 people, depending on who you talk to.
That's why I think that.
What's the entrance like?
I don't know. I was thinking that same
That's
thing.
what I'm saying. Like, I don't see how you can have a blender like all the way down to the bottom levels. It seems
High
like
pressure.
the mixture would be like already mixed up at the top, and if there were bones of like say complete skeletons already in there because they had drowned or died from some other
It was like a
cause.
slurry of death and mud that just came in.
Yeah.
Right, and then the mud comes in and just mixes up with some stuff that's already there, like bones, which are way lighter than stone.
Yeah.
So that it appears as though it was all laid down at once, but the bones were there first.
Yeah. So
I don't.
the idea.
It seems extremely hard to believe for me that something could go down in the very bottom room, where like there's no outlet, and be powerful enough to be ripping bodies apart.
Yeah.
It just doesn't. I mean, even if it was like actually doing like a blender, there's no blades, so it would just be spinning you around.
Yeah, it'd be slamming you against the wall.
It'd be like a rock tumbler.
You'd be, well, no, because of the it would be like a centrifuge. So like the heavier shit would go to the center. It wouldn't be slamming you against the wall.
But you're not the heaviest shit.
You might have been slammed against the wall once.
Yeah. You're hitting everybody in the center.
It just doesn't.
Like a tornado.
A blender.
He
He just won't come down to the idea that
Okay,
it was a fucking giant blender, man.
I don't know. Where's the blades? Where are the blades of the blender?
The people and the rocks in the wall. I don't know.
That's what breaks the shit up. If you just spin water around in a canister, you're not breaking body parts into pieces.
If you have a bunch of heavy shit that's spinning in the middle, though, right? Won't it?
And it goes on for long enough, and eventually it would.
Yeah,
But he's probably right.
I'm saying like in
they
the
were
very
killed.
bottom room where there's no outlet. How do you have a blender? How is it continuing to spin? Once it fills up, it's not gonna spin anymore.
I can't explain.
There's
the
no
fluid-
outlet.
I can't explain the fluid dynamics to you, but it would work. Trust me.
It would have to come in the door and back out.
Yeah,
and just
there would have to
keep
be
doing
there would have to be a continuous flow.
Yeah, I saw. I can't really visualize it. Like I haven't seen.
I could totally visualize it.
Yeah. I just don't think that's what happened.
But you still have to explain that it's unstratigraphied.
Well, yeah, I agree with you that all of the unstratigraphied material came in and was laid down at once.
So whatever killed them had no sediment.
But it could have been simply that what came in also had bones of
Yeah, that's
animals
the-
and all kinds of shit like that.
Yeah.
Except that
That's the mainstream explanation. I'm not okay.
What I'm
The
suggesting.
mainstream explanation is that a wave, like a local tidal wave, went across a Paleolithic cemetery and walked all the bones into the place. That's the mainstream explanation.
What I'm saying is that it seems way more likely to me that the bones would have been disarticulated and spread out throughout fairly evenly if they were already completely decomposed and just bones.
Yeah.
And when that shit came in.
Yeah.
So why would there be a bunch of bones in there? For some reason, they all died. But I don't think that... It seems to me that if all that shit came in, they would all be smashed against one area or something. They wouldn't be all disarticulated.
It would like create a clog or something.
Yeah, exactly. Like all the stuff would be like jammed up somewhere. All the animals and people would be all like shoved into certain places. And then the unstratigraphied dirt and rubble would be everywhere. So I just
Again, I think of submarines that have the same problem. The people aren't jammed in one place. They're spread out all over the place. And I don't know.
then their bodies are just ripped to pieces.
A lot of
No.
times, yeah, they are.
I don't think so.
Because the pressure is like thousands of PSI. Like when it comes in, it's explosive. Even just the air trying to get out it could just be the single impact can blow you apart because the pressure is so freaking intense. So maybe not a blender is not a really good idea.
Yeah, when you first started talking, I'm a couple episodes behind right now, and you started talking about this just a second ago, and I just immediately got terrified. I was like, this place doesn't sound good at all.
Yeah, but it's beautiful now. Now that they cleaned it all out, right? If you're looking
Yeah,
at
that they
pictures of it.
ruined
Yeah,
the
look at
evidence
pictures
of
of
Russ's
it.
blender.
Yeah.
It's real pretty.
Some of those columns look a little blady. I'm not sure.
Till next
Where is
time
Malta?
shall we keep, Savior?
It's an island in the
Mediterranean.
Mediterranean.
Yeah.
Like
Okay.
down below Sicily.
Good food.
Yeah.
I'll be fat.
That's right.
I just won't go inside.
Good food. Yeah. And there was another hypogeum that they found there that was empty. That they then almost immediately sealed back up. They were like, "Well, it's kind of the same as the first one. You don't need to see it." And they
So, is a hypogeum just like an underground city?
Yes, yeah,
Like
yeah.
it's not dependent on like the shape of the whole
no, right?
thing.
Yeah, it's a word
Cave
for
system.
it's
Complex cave system.
Yeah, it's a word for a constructed underground cave system.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
So, but
Now you're-
are like modern day
hypogeum.
mines hypogeums? Like,
I don't know. You know, it's. I mean, yeah.
I would
shit.
assume so. Brett.
sorry, Brett. I totally was not looking at.
What did he say?
whatever
Russ
he's been
is-
saying a whole bunch of shit.
Oh man. We've been
Russ is
dropping the ball.
allowed. Wait. Russ is allowed a theory with no scientific explanation. Scientists do it all the time.
Yeah, there's the Rongo.
That's Rongo
stuff.
Rongo. Yeah.
So that's
See all the little shamans and the snakes and the
It's kinda
flowers.
hard to see, but
I
yeah,
can
like
see
all
it.
these little guys. Yeah, that's not a piece of wood.
Yeah.
Yeah, what if that's just like a
I mean, it's a beautiful
an
piece of wood.
index? You know, of
Yeah.
all the
Like
shapes.
here are all the things in the sky that were killing us.
It's a receipt for gas and smokes at the Easter Island gas station.
Easter Island gas station. Did you hear me say that for one of the? I don't know if it was the last show or the one before that. We were talking about the huge cataclysm and it like destroys all of civilization, and some people were like stuck and isolated or whatever. I'm like, yeah, like those gas station attendants on Easter Island who were stuck there for thousands and thousands of years before the next ship finally came, and they're like, what?
no. That's it. Like I think I'm 2 episodes behind now.
That's not bad.
No, I guess 3
No,
in progress.
yeah. 2.25.
You're still only 2. You're listening.
Oh yeah.
You'll know this one, yeah.
Still just 2.
Yeah. So, okay. Brenner has all these pictures and everything, and I want to go through that. But like for the rest of this segment, what did you think of the like? What were the big things of the shock interview that you guys? You got to go check out Joe Rogan's interview with Robert Schock.
I've seen
fucking tastic.
I'm about 40 minutes into it, and it's just blowing my shit out of water.
So I knew that he had written, or I think he was working on a book, or that he just released a book or something like that,
Yeah.
on his theory that is sort of parallels this whole Younger Dryas impact hypothesis.
Oh, yeah.
And I knew he was doing that, and it was having something to do with solar flares, right? But the case that he laid down is really badass. Like,
Yeah,
he's-
his Siddha explanation.
yeah. But he's basically setting up the idea that all of these same proxies that they're finding would also be found in the case of a massive coronal mass ejection. A massive mass ejection. So I thought that was really awesome. So, I mean, I'm just like, hell yeah, dude. Like, I want to get the book. Yeah, I want to check it out. Because it is true that the main impact proxy that we haven't found is the crater. Right now, like there's reasons that they've given like why we don't think there's a crater, you know, because of where it hit or how it was, all this kind of stuff. So, you know, and that's natural. Like you have an idea, you have a theory, and you're, you know, you can explain reasons why you haven't found certain things that would seem
Like the crater's kind of a big deal.
kind of a big deal.
So wait, he was talking about like finding certain like minerals and
Yeah, impact proxies are nanodiamonds.
yeah, all that stuff.
Microspherals, glass spherals,
yeah.
and then the quartz. What I can't remember what he called it.
Like iridium, I think is one thing he
Yeah.
mentioned.
Yeah,
There's
iridium.
a specific type of quartz that's made. Right?
Yeah, shock quartz.
Yeah, shock quartz, right. And it can be made in lightning strikes and stuff, too. So a lot of this stuff can be made in lightning strikes.
With the vitrification, all that stuff. You were saying.
I thought that was like lightning hits quartz and then it just gets shocked and it's like
Yeah.
zero.
It's shocked quartz. It's like I've been hit by lightning. I'm shocked.
Yeah, that sounds like what he's saying, shock quartz. I don't...
So I mean,
It's
like, like finding
it's
those-
like Robert Schock. Shock quartz.
Yeah.
No, it's not.
Of course, Robert Schock is going on some type of electric university.
Right, because it's shock.
I bet he's got like a shock quartz necklace. Just like tiny little shock quartz around the chain.
I was really happy that he did bring up the Electric Universe guys, too. Like,
Yeah.
so...
And him and Rogan together kind of pointed out that it could be both. That it could be that the YDB, the Younger Dryas Impact Hypothesis guys, could also be right. He said that a solar mass ejection can be caused by comet impacts in the sun.
Yeah.
Which if that was happening, we would probably also be getting hit.
Yeah, I mean, we might run through the tail
Yeah.
and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, the space ramen.
Yeah.
But I have to say that I think the Joe Rogan quote of the year from that show, I heard it. I was like, that's badass. He goes, go to the Empire State Building and try to find a hammer.
Yeah.
Because of all the where were their tools if they were cutting all this. He's like, yeah, go to the Empire State Building and try to find a hammer. I was like, fuck yeah, that's fucking brilliant.
Dude, Shock's whole description of like why, like there's the plans written out on the wall inside some pyramid of how they built it.
Yeah.
He's like, come on.
Yeah,
Those are not. That's not the engineer's drawings of like how to build a pyramid. Like,
Right.
you don't build a building and then it's like
and then draw the plans.
and then draw
on
the
the
plans on the wall
and
of the
then
building
you're done
saying, like,
building.
this is how we built it.
Yeah, no.
Unless you're
Once
trying
we get this wall up, we'll know what we're doing.
So yeah, there's that I don't know what it is, a papyrus or it's on the
Yeah.
wall or something, and it's showing all the guys with ropes.
Oh,
And
yeah,
they're,
yeah,
they're
yeah.
pulling like some massive stone or a statue or something.
Yeah, that's probably them guessing how it was done.
Exactly. But
Yeah, and they're like taking credit for it.
that was the other thing he was saying. Is that like think of any major construction project like like one of ours. Like so, I start immediately thinking of the Hoover Dam, right? So 5,000 years from now, archaeologists discover the Hoover Dam, and while they're digging around the Hoover Dam, they just so happen to find the plans with instructions on how it was built.
Yeah,
Not gonna happen.
Right, not gonna happen.
So the fact that they think that
and there's nowhere on the Hoover Dam where they drew the plans in.
that's right,
They do have the star thing where they're trying to say, here's when we built it, but that's
Yeah.
it.
But they might have somewhere in a tunnel underneath that like shows you like you are here, and
Yeah.
you can go like down
Well,
this.
that's just like with our current stuff.
Man, that would
Like,
be
maybe
badass.
it was a best practice to have like how you created this thing documented and stored away somewhere inside the thing, like way back in the day. Another civilization.
Well, there have been ancient constructions that have found with little models that are also made of stone.
Yeah.
But it's just a model. It doesn't show you how they built it. But it is interesting when you only find pieces of it, and then there's a model that shows you the whole thing. And then that allows people to find certain underground parts or places, you understand the full extent of it when you've only found a little part.
Yeah, we need to find that castle that has the huge stone table that shows the entire land. Giza, all the
Oh my God.
That has like, where they
Bumps just thinking.
where they planned their wars and stuff. And little pieces.
Like shoving pushing the pharaohs around and the
Little
Dragonstone, buddy. It's Dragonstone. That's the castle we need to find.
Wait, is this?
It's a game of reference.
It's a game of Dooskies.
Dragonstone has the massive table that has the entire 7 kingdoms.
Okay.
And everything represented in like on the table.
All right, perfectly.
All right, so yeah, speaking of Game of Thrones,
No.
No, let's go
We
back.
all want it, but let's not talk about it.
No, go ahead. Good, say something.
That's cool. Let's talk about Game of Thrones. We were talking about it last night.
Yeah. Okay, so any other thoughts on the shock? Like I love that, like he calls it Siddha, the solar induced dark age.
Yeah.
Well, I'm still so the ice cores.
The Greenland ice cores.
The Greenland ice cores. So, was he saying that you could see when a solar burst occurred?
Yeah.
Based on the
Well-
radiation found in layers of the ice core?
Yes, but he was saying that you could see. He was saying that his hypothesis, based on the layers that they found, is that it's a solar-induced cataclysm. But that,
I'm just wondering why.
But the point is that there are layers because the Greenland ice shelf is stratigraphied by year. It's annual. Like, okay, so you could basically they've done these ice cores and they started in like 1992. The Americans did it. The Russians did it. And I think the French. Maybe.
But you can see the seasons.
But you can see, yeah. So
how do they tie it to a solar flare? Or
well, he's
an event like that?
hypothesizing that it was a solar flare because of the stuff in the snowfall for that particular year. Whereas the Younger Dryas impact guys are saying that it's an impact. Those are impact proxies, and what he was pointing out is that impact proxies and solar flare induced proxies are very similar. But he thinks there's more evidence for the solar flare than there is for the impact because there isn't a crater.
So they're
That's
not
the
testing-
main reason. Because if you, sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna ask, like, they're not testing for radiation in any of the materials that they're finding in any of the layers of these ice cores.
I don't know.
they are.
I imagine they are.
Yeah, I mean,
radioactive.
and yeah, the materials like the iridium is irradiated.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah. But I think what he was saying is that, first of all, there's no crater, but that isn't his. I think what he was trying to say is that that's the easiest thing to point out, but he has all this data that shows other discrepancies where he's more inclined to think that it was a solar. But he points out, he was like, I used to be on the impact bandwagon, right?
Yeah.
Team impact.
He's just team impact.
Make shirts.
Yeah.
Team Impact. Team Impact. And on the back, it's Team Go Solar.
Go solar.
Or whatever. What does he call it? Set it. It's
Siddha.
Siddha.
Yeah, S-I-D-A.
I get it confused with SETI.
Yeah, solar induced
And
dark age.
Pecos.
Pecos.
Pecos?
Pecos. Pecos. On the Pecos.
I have a song we should sing about Pecos.
We had a long conversation about the word Pecos before we started the show.
That's right.
No,
Oh, Beta?
yeah,
Yeah, but we could change it to Pecos. Yeah.
yes.
All right.
All right, inside
Some
jokes.
inside baseball there, folks.
Sorry.
Yeah. So
Tangent.
so he's basically saying that over time he's seeing more and more data that points more to a solar flare than to impact. And I.
Team Impact versus the Flares. Yeah.
Now, I do agree that the vitrification, in some cases, is more understandable if you're talking about a massive solar flare or a series of solar flares. However, there's vitrification that's difficult to explain either way because there's vitrification on the interiors
Oh, wait, I don't need to raise my hand. What's vitrification?
Okay,
I know it's on the tip of my tongue.
vitrification is when you've got some type of stone and it's been melted and reformed on the exterior.
Okay.
So it forms this like hard, smooth enamel type surface, even if the stone itself is normally rough and right. And you can vitrify almost any kind of material. So like there's in Peru, there's limestones that have been vitrified on the outsides, right? So the interior is not vitrified, like it would be if it was metamorphic.
Yeah, lightning.
Right.
Like that.
But the problem with lightning is that lightning tends to make fulgurites, which is where if you ever
Like we're talking about a
Right.
whole different level of lightning.
Yeah.
So I was thinking about
art from a welder, just blazing the surface.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
I was thinking about
but it would still
the whole
it would
Velikovsky
still
thing.
make interior fulgurites.
Yeah.
Whereas what we see on the vitrification is the entire exterior of the stone is smooth. Now that might be explained by a giant plasma beam that's like
That's what I'm
crazy.
talking about. Like,
Yeah.
I'm thinking of, so I'm thinking of this whole thing that Velikovsky's been laying out with the ancient text. And this
Brent,
is
you
one
can
thing
pull up some fulgurites. Sorry.
that, Fulgurite.
I want to fold it. We thought about making one that one time. Remember, like, we were going to get the bottle rockets and, like, put steel cables on them, send them up into space, put then the cable into the sand pit, make some fulgurite, try not to die.
And sell them.
Or, yeah.
To get,
yeah.
do the Benjamin Franklin.
Yeah. You're gonna
direct
you're
the
gonna
lightning
short out
into
the-
a pile of sand.
Yeah, you're gonna short out the capacitor. Yeah, I got
Yeah.
you. There's
Yeah.
one. There's some fulgurites. Now see how they'll go down into the material. Okay.
Yeah.
That's from what what lightning strikes now. Like you can, if on the beach, if you see a place, and Kamak had a lightning strike right next to him on the beach, and I was like, dude, fulgurites sell for thousands of dollars. You know,
Well,
he was
hold
like,
on.
I was too busy running, bro.
Hold on a second now. I want to say something here. Like the stuff that Velikovsky was talking about, all these, this planet coming close and causing this thing that, a plasma strike, like a lightning strike that carves the Grand Canyon, that
Yeah.
type of shit, that cuts that scar on Mars.
Yeah.
That's not going to be making a fulgurite. It's going to be, number one, it's the black mat layer. This is the other connection. If the lightning is, if we just have this massive electrical storm that is global in scope, everything's going to be on fire.
Yeah.
That, Robert Schoch's idea and the comet impact hypothesis guys, they're on the same page.
Yeah.
Everything burned.
Everything burned.
So, like, looking at that, plus this idea of the ice caps melting, catastrophic melting. So you're gonna have, like, say, fulgurites on a massive scale being made.
Yeah.
For example, in the Grand Canyon. But then at the same time, you've got suddenly all this flash boiled and melted glacial water from the what the fuck is the name of the layer? The 2 mile thick Laurentide ice sheet,
Yeah, Laurentide.
hauling us down through the central United States and just washing all that, and your blender freaking thing happening.
Oh, yeah.
With all the fulgurite, and so then you end up with this layer of shit all over the place. It's just crystallized. It's all been
which we see
It's
everywhere. Yeah.
stable after it's formed. It's going to, if a huge tidal wave comes in.
So it's like all of this stuff is happening at once. Like you have all the flooding, all the stuff that we were talking about with the Velikovsky stuff. The fire in the sky, like all that shit.
Well, there you go. One way you could make exterior thin vitrification of like the Peru stones, right? Is to have water over top of it and that get hit by the lightning, and that would spread the freaking shock out all over the smooth surfaces of the stone and vitrify the outside layers of it.
Yeah.
Seems like it takes a lot of water.
We're talking about a lot of water.
Well, the other idea is that going back to the Hypogeum blender, if that thing got struck by like a major strike, plasma strike, while it was being inundated.
Oh yeah, because that would be salt water
First,
too.
let's say it's happening while it's getting inundated, so you're flash boiling stuff and all the body parts come apart.
Oh, yeah.
It's like it's just everything's coming apart.
You're right.
And then it's being stirred up with all the sediment and everything, and there's going to be so much energy in there, resonant energy on high frequency
Like
levels.
bodies
that break.
exploding when they run into each other in the slurry.
Yeah, that's right.
So like you're right, but you were wrong. I mean,
I wonder if they could tell that from the bones, like which we don't have anymore because they're all gone.
yeah, they
Well, they
had
got all
to
those
clean it
frozen
up.
ones in that.
Well, what I'm
Siberia.
saying, like, think about this. That Hypogeum was found with anywhere from the lowest count was 9,000, the bones of 9,000 people. Upwards of 30,000. Some people said 30,000. All of them are gone. There's like maybe a few skulls left.
Well, that happens everywhere. Like,
I mean,
at
but they
every
were
site.
archaeologically digging it out. Are you saying that like they hide evidence? Is that what you're talking about?
Oh yeah, they go to the Smithsonian.
Air quotes. We got to take a break here in a minute. It's also getting hot.
Yeah, it's getting really hot. So we're gonna take a break. We'll come back and we have some pictures from the Pecos. And there'll probably going to be some snakes.
Brothers of the Serpent podcast. Limitless conversation by 3 incredibly limited individuals. And possibly 4, because Brett just got the massive folder full of petroglyph photos.
That's right.
From the Pecos.
From the Pecos.
More of our inside baseball. Basically, argument about how to pronounce
We
it.
don't know how to say Pecos.
Pecos. Brenner's trying to tell us the Cowboys say Pecos. And I just like, I don't know. Come on, Pecos.
Pecos.
All right.
All right, so tell the story, Brenner. What happened?
Yeah,
What'd you guys do?
So we did 6 days on the Pecos River, kayaks, and it was like kayaking down a river in a museum.
Wow.
So
That's a badass.
yeah, it was cool shit. So we'd kayak all day, and then we'd set up camp. And in a lot of the campsites that we ended up at, we'd be able to walk down the canyon just a little bit and find petroglyphs.
Oh, okay.
So we checked out the pictographs that we're talking about right now are Lewis Canyon. What can you? Microphone adjustment.
Yep.
Something was wrong.
No, just keep going. Lewis Canyon.
Yeah, Lewis Canyon.
So you would walk down this one?
Lewis Canyon is you get up to the top of this mesa, and it may or may not be granite, but it's just covered with hundreds. Is it a petroglyph that's carved in the stone?
Yeah.
Okay.
And if it had fossils in it, it's not granite.
The fossils don't fit.
Okay.
It was hard ass thing. So it was. We saw a lot of paintings and carvings that just blew our shit out of the water. So when I was listening to that Robert Chalk interview earlier today, and I started seeing what they're talking about with the aurora images, or like the plasma forms,
Yes.
and how those relate to ancient pictographs, I immediately just like pulled up the shared Google Drive.
Yeah, and then you have your little book where you were drawing them too.
Yeah, so I didn't have a camera. I didn't bring my phone. But I did have a waterproof journal and a pen. So I walked it's a huge area, so I just walked all around it, and I started seeing certain pictographs or images that just kept popping up everywhere I walked around. So those, I would just sit there and just draw it out the best I could. So most of them are just like the common ones, except one that was just like really badass. That was really cool.
But you had the one you had the one there's one that looks a lot like the shaman guy with the arms up, the legs out, but there's no circles. Normally they have the circles here and here. Mm-hmm. But that's interesting. So I've seen most of these, except that one. But
That one was in a lot of places. I was really surprised. And I was like, it's a really weird symbol. It looks kind of like a music note, some sort of like a quarter note, with a...
Kyle's taking a picture, and we're going to put it up on the...
There we go.
So it'll be in the show notes.
Oh, my art is going to be famous. That's true.
All 5 people are going to see it.
All 5 of our listeners are going to see it. It's going to be famous, bro. Well, 4, because you're one of them, so...
Yeah. But yeah, these little things are like the 2 circles connected by a line. There were a lot of different variations of that and combinations of them. Sometimes the circles would be filled in, sometimes they wouldn't.
Filled in, like, as in dug out?
Dug out.
Okay,
So yeah, these were carved in. So sometimes they were just outlines of circles, sometimes they were completely hollowed.
Yeah. And you got the waveform,
Those are
the crescent and the spear. And I'm just saying names that I know of.
The addles. I think that's what they're on, like that chicken foot looking thing right there.
Yeah.
And the bottom one was the most interesting because every single one of those dots was carved into the stone.
Yeah.
And I saw it in multiple places. That was the most complex.
And what about these 2 dots coming off the side?
They were there.
Okay.
I don't know.
Wow. So imagining these as plasma forms up in the sky, spinning and killing people. That's
Yeah.
You're like,
yeah.
yeah.
So, no, that's what I was thinking.
Hard to
about
imagine because I'd be dead.
Whenever we were first looking at it, like Archer and I were talking about they kind of look like electron orbitals.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That one you're talking about, it kind of looks like the shaman eyes. It's the 2 circles connected with the line. But then you've got all these dots going all around the whole thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Shock was talking about how there's a guy, Perrot, I think his name is.
Journey
It sounds like it should be said Perot or whatever. Was that it?
Yeah. It's actually P-E-R-O-T or P-E-R-R-O-T.
Yeah, Perrot.
I looked him up, and I actually saved his
Ross.
website. Dude,
Ross Perrot.
I made a Snake Bros save of his website.
Yeah, so this guy is a plasma physicist, and he's basically been able to recreate a bunch of those plasma forms in the lab.
Yeah. I heard about that. Or maybe
So you imagine
E-R-A-T-T. Anthony L. Perrot.
Perrot.
It's Perrot.
His name is Anthony Perrot. Okay.
It's a Perrot. So he has a website, everythingselectric.com, and I don't know if it's his website, but somebody made it.
Fucking electrocuted
Pretty badass. Plasma Astrophysics and Cosmology.
it's a good website.
I used to flip out about the Thunderbolts people, man. Because I would see that, everywhere you go online and you're looking at something or whatever, and somebody's talking about something badass, and somebody would be like, well, you gotta check out the Thunderbolts project. This explains everything. And I'm just like, yeah, fucking Electric Universe people.
Little did you know.
Little did I know that they had some badass, they had some badass scientists behind them that knew what they were talking about. But I was just talking to the peons that don't know shit.
Yeah. It's always peons up there.
Fucking peons. So, in the greater context of what we normally talk about on this show, and I don't know how much, I do think that this applies to what you were seeing in the rock, but thinking of all the ancient structures, and I was thinking about this actually while I was driving down here to do this show. We are, in a sense, there's parts of us, there's pockets of humanity all over the world. What am I getting looked at for?
Oh, I'm just analyzing things I'm hearing in my headphones.
Oh, okay.
I think the cat's walking on the roof or something.
He's got fucking super ears. I didn't hear any cat walking on the roof.
Super ears.
Cat walking on the roof. He's like, I think the cat's walking. I think I heard
Well, it's like
Holy
really,
shit.
It's really low frequency, like boom, 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 boom.
Could it be? No. Anyway, I was thinking about this as we're coming down because Robert and I was still listening to the Joe Rogan show, and Robert Schoch was talking about because Joe Rogan asked him, well, how are we? Are there other people looking into this? What's going on with this? And Schoch is talking about all these groups of people around the world. There are people who are thinking about what might happen if we have another Carrington type event, right? And just to rehash real quick, well, not rehash, but for a Carrington event is a low-level solar event that we had happen in the late 1800s. That
1857.
Look at this. Look at
this guy.
Show.
Yeah, look at this guy.
Yeah. Just gonna brush my shoulders off real quick.
That's right. Right, we can take a break. So it affected the telegraph lines. It actually set telegraph offices on fire and electrocuted people.
Don't worry, Brett. I'm not gonna make you obsolete.
Robot show observers.
Hey, don't piss off our show observer, bro.
Yeah.
You're a guest here.
Yeah. I gotcha. Noted.
He's like, yeah, the Carrington event was 1857. God, shit. I'm like, it's in the late 1800s somewhere. Bam. Anyway, so there are people looking into what might happen to modern infrastructure if we had another thing like that. And the Carrington event is a low level like relatively low-level solar event. Okay, what Shock is talking about that caused the Siddha, the solar-induced Dark Age, is thousands, millions. He said millions of times stronger than that. Well, he was saying it was like if you think of a hurricane, millions of times more energetic than that. The Carrington event was not anything like that, but it was enough to.
It set places on fire.
Yeah.
Like it's at the telegraph station.
And it killed people. Yeah, it killed telegraph operators if they were. Oh, here we go.
I was wrong.
1859. That's fake news. Okay, so also known as the Carrington event, was a powerful geomagnetic solar storm during the solar cycle 10, 1855 through 1867. A solar coronal mass ejection hit Earth's magnetosphere and induced one of the largest geomagnetic storms on record. Yeah, 1857 is way closer than I would have guessed. Yeah, I was like late 1800s, so yeah, you're in the ballpark. Anyway, I was just thinking about how we have people looking into cataclysms that are global because the ancients who survived the last one left us signs all over the place.
Yeah.
Think if we didn't have these ancient structures, and if we didn't have these petroglyphs,
Oh shit! I see where you're going here.
like we would have no fucking idea. We wouldn't have a Snake Brothers show. There wouldn't be anything weird to look into. There wouldn't be any strange questions about the past, and we would just have no fucking clue.
Well, there would be no reason to question any of it, or no reason
That's
to
right.
investigate.
Yeah, there would
That's
be
right.
no reason to question uniformitarianism.
That's right. That's right. But I'm just
As far
saying.
as I'm concerned, we have so many reasons to question uniformitarianism.
That's right. But think about how.
Thank you, ancient peoples.
Yes, thank you, ancient peoples. Like, think about how all of these anomalous structures all over the world and these petroglyphs that you guys are seeing that are blowing your mind. I mean, you're going down the river and it's just carved figures in a stone, but they're blowing your mind, right? You're like, who did this? What are they for? Those questions are what are making us look into the possibilities, and it's the clues left by these structures and all these things. They're saying, like, what would cause people to do this? And then we're like, we get people like Shock saying, well, it could be a global catastrophic event. That's what's making groups of scientists and other things, other mavericks and stuff, look into this so that we might be more fucking prepared next time. And we won't need an Ahura Mazda to come down and be like, and you gotta keep the bodies this far away from the water, and you gotta, all that bullshit.
What if the body is... I can't help but imitate the
The voice.
Samsung chick that says it all.
Yeah.
What if the body is in the river?
Run.
Like every possible.
But yeah, what I'm saying is,
Brenner just made this drink. What is this drink? Oh my god.
It's essentially Topo Chico with lime and Pinot Grigio.
hold on, look at what?
It's very
And
refreshing.
ice. A lot of ice.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I just found it I just found it fascinating that, like, as I'm driving down here, I'm like, you know what?
Come on now, don't go all
They left
day.
signposts all over the world saying this fucking happened to us.
Well, I mean, you're right. Like, so if they would have never left those signs, would we have ever
We hadn't.
connected the plasma forms to
Right, no.
those symbols we're seeing?
No.
And then the question is like, why? Like, so now we're
Yeah, we would still be like, what do they mean? But we would be like, well, they're little dudes and they were primitives and they were thinking with magic. Whatever the actual mainstream scientific explanation is would not be questioned because there would be no reason to question it. But more than that, I'm saying, like, I don't know if I'm getting this across right. I think Kyle got it, but, like, the fact that these people, okay, think about how much of an impact the event had to have had to cause a global effort at building things that said, hey, fucking pay attention to this. It happened to us and it can happen again. Right? Göbekli Tepe is giant signposts. Basically, there's whole carving sets that point to our time right now. So they have all the, like, you think of it as a movie in rock. All these images across these T-pillars, okay? And the T-pillars are anthropomorphized people. So they're saying, here's us. Here's the shit that happened to us. And they're showing us the heavens of their time and how all this fucking crazy shit happened. And then there's another T-pillar, a giant one that's anthropomorphized, and they're saying, here's your time. That's what I'm saying. Like, if there's any chance that that anything of our civilization is going to survive, it's going to be because of the ancients. It's going to be because of the ancient people.
What a chance they took, too. Göbekli Tepe was intentionally buried.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh, in BT Dub, everything that was us
Is buried and dead and gone. That's right.
So hardcore.
Damn it.
We don't go that hard these days.
Yeah, so you have to imagine that, like, humans have not changed. They probably had their standard modelists and people that were naysaying, and then they had their crazy preppers, and because
The guys are
and
like,
they
hey,
had
let's
their,
build this city and then bury it. And everyone's like, wait, what?
What are you doing?
Why?
Yeah.
They had their Eiffel Towers and their Empire State Buildings
Yeah.
and their all this stuff. And then there were other people like, hey, let's build this really badass thing and then bury it.
Yeah.
Like, why? You're crazy, you freaking
Yeah.
preppers. Like,
Yeah,
what is your
exactly.
problem? Like, you're not only prepping, it's like, there's no reason to prep because we're all going to die. There's no way we can even, like, yeah, we're going to do preppers. All right, we're going to make a hypogeum over here, and we're going to make two hypogeums right next to each other.
Right.
In case one fails. Fail safe.
That's right.
And then over
Just
here,
in case one turns into a blender.
God, it's like. You never
Sorry.
know when your shit's gonna turn into a blender.
You never know when your hypogeum gets turned into a fucking blender. I'm just saying. I mean, that's probably what the other guys from the other hypogeum said. Like, they got blended.
Hey,
That's why they're not coming out.
Yeah, so in the 50s, they're like, hey, don't do the winding staircase into your bunker. Like, no, you want to switch back. You definitely want to switch back, sir, in case it turns into a bunker. Wait, you don't want that winding staircase.
Yeah. It's gonna make things a lot worse.
Haven't you seen the hypogeum in Malta? You need a switchback staircase. Trust me, with airlocks.
Your thing on the cart runs. Try switching those tracks.
Yeah.
Where are we going? Well, I hope we're going to Malta.
There's just no way to know.
Yeah.
You can't switch those bitches.
Yeah.
Go with
So
courage.
that really hit me hard on the way down here. That the ancients, we have them to thank. The only reason why anybody's even looking into this.
Well, that's another thing, too, that we've talked about before, but it hit me really hard a
Till
while
next
back
time
about
shall we
the
keep, Savior.
pyramid that it's okay, Fro. Your fizzy drink is
That's all right. Yeah, it's
not a
kosher.
problem.
It's cool.
I totally heard it. Hey, I heard it. I heard all of it, but it's fine.
It's like I poured the carbonated water, and all of a sudden everyone's looking at me.
Yeah, what is that? I mean, it was loud enough for me to hear. It wasn't like the cat walking on the roof.
Yeah. The idea that because of the artifacts that were discovered at Giza, and the people who had even beyond or further back in history than the modern day at like Christopher Columbus's time,
Yeah.
that had visited Egypt. And studied under the people that were studying the artifacts of Egypt.
Yeah.
Is the only reason why we have, America as it is today.
Oh, yeah.
Like, in other words,
Yeah, no, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
not like the guy had ancient maps.
Yes.
He had, and those ancient maps were built on sources that were built on sources that were ultimately had come from ancient Egypt.
That's right.
And
then those had come from sources that
and
come
so
from
our
sources.
knowledge of precession,
Yeah.
it was like now we can do it, right?
Right.
But if you remove all of the clues that were given
We wouldn't
from
even
all
have-
astronomy that was
Yeah.
based on this thing, then we don't have the foundations of astronomy to begin with, because those people who started looking at the sky and saying, well, let's stand some stones up and
Yeah.
or let's make an observatory, they were all building off of what was left
Right.
after the cataclysm.
So Aristotle, Copernicus, all these guys were, they
what
were
I'm saying.
doing it because the ancients were doing it, and there was this long stack up of knowledge. Yes, I
That's
see
what
what
I'm
you're
saying.
saying.
So it's like we don't have satellites. We don't have electricity. We don't have the land of the free, the United States, whatever. We don't have that whole thing ever happen if they didn't have the artifacts that they made
That's right.
with this complex mathematics and all this kind of stuff. You know, the astronomy that's in all of that shit in Giza.
That's right. The ancient
wouldn't happen.
name of Egypt was Kemet, which is where we get the word chemistry. So we wouldn't have chemistry either because people who were studying what they now call alchemy, right? Alchemy, the way of Egypt is what that means. Kemet. So you have alchem, we have chemistry because of alchemy.
What was that book?
Wait.
The alchemy book. Like the dude had one book that he had to pick one book, and he picked the book.
Oh yeah. It was the Medici family. He was the head of the Medici family, and they were like the biggest, most powerful family. It was like we're talking with the Catholic Church. They had popes and all this shit. He was the patriarch of the Medici family in the 1500s, and he was dying. Okay, and he had a peon. I don't know if it was a relative or whatever who had gone to Egypt, or no, they had purchased books from Byzantines. Okay, it's like a long, complicated thing, but basically he had ended up with these books that came from ancient Egypt. Okay, and there was like the Platonic dialogues. Okay, so he had the stuff from Plato because remember, Egypt got taken over by Greece, and this was the Alexandrian version of Egypt. Okay, so then Greece gets taken over by Rome. So then it's Byzantium. Okay, so then these ancient, and then the Turks come in as the Ottomans and take over all that shit, take over Constantinople, and that's nobody's business but the Turks. That's right. Istanbul to Constantinople. So this guy from Italy, okay, had purchased these 5 books from a Byzantium family who were fleeing, okay, the takeover, and he had to decide which one do I want to have translated. Because he knew that he only had time because he was dying, that he was only going to have time.
Yeah.
Right. And he chose the Hermetica.
Okay.
Which was the book of, Hermes Trismegistus, the thrice great, which is basically the wisdom god of Egypt thought, Tahuti. Okay?
I've had that book on my list of things to pirate for so long.
Yes. The Hermetica. That started the fucking Renaissance in Europe, which basically resulted in all the sciences we have. Like the reason Isaac Newton was studying alchemy and kicked off the whole thing with chemistry, and includes mathematics. Okay, his whole thing with calculus. This is all based on his studies of alchemy and everything like that. The reason why we have all this shit is because of the Hermetica, which is because of ancient Egypt, which is because of their legacy that they were coming from, which we no longer know what it is, lost to time. So yes, like you could basically, Kyle was saying like, what were you saying? We wouldn't have satellites, blah blah blah. We wouldn't have the modern world at all.
No, we wouldn't, because it all. I mean, like every branch of the sciences came from the like you could trace it back to these little things that started these little branches of things, and they were all based on people that went over here and learned some shit from these guys that were telling them stuff in ancient Egypt.
Or just looking at the buildings and being like, what the fuck?
Exactly.
Yeah. Like finding all the maps.
We're doing a little Brett. Okay, so he was saying Francisco de
Medici, the Archduke of Tuscany,
Tuscany. That's where I was, in Italy.
Yeah.
And so we're checking on this because that cathedral that we were talking about a couple episodes ago is in Orvieto. I think it's in Tuscany, but I'm not sure. He's looking it up.
Great food.
Yeah, fantastic. But still, it's right near, even if it's not in Tuscany. But the point is that like, I saw that There was so much. It's like it seemed to me that whoever built that thing was trying to do. They were trying to record everything.
Okay. Like I could feel how much your mind was blown whenever you got back.
Yeah.
They were
Yeah.
trying to record all the knowledge of man in symbolism in that building.
And I just didn't expect that in Italy. Like, I don't know much about
did.
Italy. Like,
Yeah, me either. I wasn't.
Well, the Egyptian statues you were showing me from the museum you were looking at there too, like I've spent hours looking through Egyptian shit and I've never seen anything like some of those statues that you were showing me. They look like modern art.
Yeah.
They're like perfectly carved in this black basalt. I'm just
Yeah.
like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
No, I mean, I don't know if it was basalt, but it was like this dark stone. It was like
Yeah.
polished.
Andesite and granite.
Yeah, diorite.
Yeah.
That was another thing they talked about in the part that I was actually listening to in the Shock interview was the part about the stoneware vessels. And that was cool because like we've kind of gone over the stoneware vessels before on Brothers of the Serpent.
those things just blow me out of the water.
Yeah. And I kind of wanted to hear Shock, because he's a geologist, I wanted to hear him explain, because some of those stoneware vessels, you could see crystals embedded in them. Okay? Right? So you see like it's this dark red stone or whatever, and there are these they're clearly crystals. How do you...
Yeah, so napping, trying to like, so I did a obsidian napping for a while, and what I found like was that if you have tiny crystals in your obsidian and you're trying to nap something, it explodes.
There you go.
Those tiny crystals ruin fucking everything. Just
Because they're made of a completely different material. And
it's snowflake obsidian. It's just full of tiny little what are the little
quartz.
little quartz balls, crystal balls.
Nodules or whatever.
Break them open.
Oh, geodes.
Geodes. They're
Geodes.
like micro geodes.
Oh. Micro gem bubbles.
Okay, so I've actually found artifacts though that have like little pocket geodes.
Yeah.
In the artifact, like they just dealt with it.
Yeah, no, and I successfully made some arrowheads with snowflake obsidian. It's just really frustrating. Like,
So I was thinking...
You get so far and then it just like
oh my god,
explodes.
you get to the very last like flake, and yeah, just
So I was thinking about the tool that turns rock into like clay. That could be how they made all those stoneware vessels. Because think about how they look like pottery. And he even says it turns it into clay like a potter would use in potter.
so is that vitrification?
Holy shit. I don't know if they're
They heat it
vitrified.
up and you can remold it.
What is the constitution of clay? Is it?
Squishy rock.
No, I mean like what is like? Are we talking because
What's the time here? What do we got on time?
most crystals we're getting there. 3 minutes. Most crystals are, they're
Clay, that's what I was saying. Crystals don't seem like they could be clayized by any kind of...
But you can turn clay into porcelain, which is very much.
But that I would say that's a crypto crystal. Right? Like
I don't.
Clay consists of octahedral sheets sandwiched between two tetrahedral sheets. Examples are talc vermiculite. Yeah. Okay. Well, what about the
clay minerals. Yeah, here we go.
Okay.
Kaolin group, which includes the minerals kaolinite, dickite.
That's just dirty. That's the. Never mind.
Some toxic
Moving on.
toxic masculinity here, people.
So it is a bunch of crystals, basically. So
And clay is
if you fired it hot enough, can you make it into one? What is porcelain?
or ceramics.
Wait, what is that? So is it calcite that looks like melted crystal? Not
Yes.
Is it calcite?
Yeah, you have a calcite. Yeah. But crystal
Just
normally
they have a lot
it
of
grows.
silica, like.
Crystal normally grows, right? So that's how you get these large macro forms. But when you're talking about like something like flint, it's a crypto crystal because you can't actually see even with a
It's
microscope.
not really growing. It's
It just
reducing
forms.
sort of. or it would be more like
The forms are nodule.
right. That's what I'm saying. It would be like normalizing almost.
By the way,
nodule.
I don't know what I was reading, but I definitely did the fist pump in the air when I read this. that there's a legend that the Indians have. Okay. That. Oh, the speakers are on. That might explain some stuff.
You're muted. Just keep going. Don't mind me.
There's a legend that the Indians have, and it might be the Navajo. I don't know, but
Dot Indians or Feather Indians?
I'm thinking okay.
sorry.
Yeah.
Feather Indians.
Thank you, Brett.
That the serpent in the sky, the serpent that crossed the sky, was bleeding from its encounter of whatever, and its blood droplets that hit the ground turned into flint that they made the arrowheads out of. But what I'm saying is like the idea of what flint is. If you look at, because Kyle and I have seen it in these jobs that we've worked out here, where it looks like a liquid was poured onto soft, like when the limestone that it's in was still soft. It looks like a liquid was poured onto it. That then
It looks like liquid mercury, the way it would stand.
yeah, it's got a
Yeah, I've seen it like
Surface tension.
You find a cliff wall with just a bunch of flint nodules like
right.
inside of it.
So
And but at the property, there's like areas where you're looking at like the stratification would like all the top layers have been removed, but this flint is left and it's been eroded down, and it looks like a puddle.
yeah,
Like in these,
but it has this extremely high surface tension.
I
Yeah.
pulled one out. Like I found
Dude, they're
one on
wild.
the ground and pulled one out.
So this legend that it was the blood of the serpent, dude. Because remember how I was like, could this be ejecta? Like it looks like it was put into this when the limestone was still mud, and this came as a molten or something.
That's the only way that flint is formed, or that's the way that some flint.
No,
I don't know.
Much of the flint was formed because I think that there are ideas about,
Nodule flint.
high pressure, slow.
Yeah, I tried
cooling,
to
that kind of
figure it
stuff.
out.
Because that's like the physics of crystals, right? You can synthesize this process, right? So the way they form, you can, they do this with.
Don't get out of the mic there.
I'm trying to think of what it is. Silicon.
Yeah.
So our crystal technology is to a certain level, and we understand how to form it, how to make it in various forms. And so a lot of that is based on ideas that geologists and all these people have had. And so we've tested those and confirmed them. And then you have, with quartz and stuff, you have to get extremely high temperatures, extremely high pressures.
And you still have to nucleate. Like
Exactly.
Yeah.
and nobody understands that.
Yeah.
Nobody understands that, but you can clearly see where the nucleation site was in
Yeah.
the nodule.
Yeah.
That's why all the rings, it's like these little spheres go out.
Yeah.
Because the nucleation site was either out here or in there.
Yeah.
And it's going one way or the other.
Yeah.
So, I think that their ideas or the standard model ideas are correct, but not necessarily for every scenario. Like,
Yeah.
it doesn't appear to be correct from what I've read in our area. It doesn't seem to be correct. Just based on the way these things are, it's like, where was the high extreme pressure and heat and slow cooling? What happened to all the rest of the limestone?
Yeah.
During that.
In this limestone mud.
Why is it not? When was this limestone mud at that
Like
ridiculous
2,000
temperature?
degrees Celsius, and yeah. So we're gonna take another quick break. We'll come back for the second hour. Maybe have more petroglyphs. Maybe not. Maybe we'll talk about
Snakes.
astronauts and snakes.
Wait, what'd you say?
Snake.
half our pyramids tied behind our backs just to make it square. Coming back for the second hour of Brothers of the Serpent podcast with our special guest in-house, Brenner, who was on the...
Brenner.
Little loud and shout out there.
So, you had something you were saying to me. You were like, I was going to say this about...
Yeah. So the Carrington event. One little thing that Robert Schock mentioned during that interview was like, hey, so if we had another Carrington event, it would pretty much wipe out all communication, internet, electronics, like everything that we've got.
Yeah.
Toast, set on fire. And I heard that when I was just sitting at this table looking at my laptop, listening to this podcast. I was like, it's all fucked. I immediately was just like, okay, so let's imagine life without this thing in front of me, like without the phone, everything's toast. What am I gonna do?
Yeah.
And
Carve snakes into rock.
yeah,
That's basically all you got left.
yeah. It's like I need to warn future generations about this.
Right.
But
Snake Bros.
it made me take a step back. It's just like that, just like one little solar situation, like a solar burst or
Yeah, a
like
little cough from the sun.
Yeah, it just sneezes or whatever the fuck,
Yeah.
and then like all of a sudden, everything that like we've got a lot of our communication based on is just
Yeah.
toasted.
One thing that I usually
Keep your life
I always
to
think
your
about
own.
this, but people you hardly ever see it in at least not modern. I learned this because when I was learning about the sun way back in the 80s. Okay, they called it a 2% variable star.
Back when we used to really know shit about the sun.
That's right. I'm just saying that like they've stopped saying that it's a 2% variable star.
Yeah.
Okay, if you think about 2% variable, if you look at the sun's total output, a 2% variation,
Over what period of time? Like,
it doesn't matter.
Well, yeah, but how do they know? Like, they're basing their 2% off of what? Like, recent records?
I have no idea.
Oh, okay. Okay. Never mind. Continue.
Yeah, I don't know.
Because
That's a
I
good
remember
question.
that too, like 2% variable star, and then there's a Heinlein thing, variable star.
Yeah, yeah.
That Heinlein
yeah.
book, right?
Yeah, the variable star book. Yeah, but 2% variable in terms of the sun's total output. It doesn't matter if it's 10,000 years or a day. That's a massive amount of energy difference.
Yeah.
And it's far more than you can account for in terms of like the climatic changes we've seen in the Earth. Like so, usually when you see a variable star, they're flare stars. The ones that they call variable stars now are flare stars. They basically, and it's quick. Now we know our sun has an 11-year cycle. So I always assumed that the variation would be on this 11-year cycle.
It's not 12.
It should be. But it's
Holy
not.
shit. There's something wrong here.
Yeah, well maybe they've. It's probably 11.
But
it's probably 11 years,
If you do it 4
364
times,
days.
you can get to 44, and you're cool.
Yeah, that's right. 11 is still a. I mean, like people see the 1111.
Yeah, it's
know.
like kind of cool.
Yeah, it's all right. It's okay. It's not 12 though. But yeah, so 2% variation is going to be massive. Okay, so if you think about that, the Carrington event was like a,
0.00.
right. But if it actually did its flare, its 2% flare,
Can I not have but a moment of silence?
I mean, we would be toast. Like, it wouldn't just wipe out all communications; it would kill everything on the planet.
It would set the planet on fire
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
with massive lightning.
yeah.
Flares versus impact. Flare wins.
That's right. The impact wouldn't even be noticed.
Yeah.
It would burn before it even hit us.
Okay, so let's look at this through the electric universe lens, like the sun's variability.
There you Okay, more than
I'll
I'm
hold that
sorry.
thought.
Yeah, more than 100%. This is from Brett. More than 100,000 variable stars are known and have been cataloged, and thousands more are suspected variables. Our own sun is a variable star. Its energy output varies by approximately 0.1%. Okay, so or 1,000th of its magnitude over an 11-year solar cycle.
Yeah, but that's just the quote unquote 11-year solar cycle.
Yeah.
But what are the greater cycles? Because we have
Yeah, we know
on
there are
Earth we have a 24-hour cycle.
Yeah.
We have a 365.2 something whatever cycle. We have a 26,000
Wait,
year
so-
cycle.
So it's
Brett,
1, 2, 3, 4. Remember from the Joker?
Greetings.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Brett,
Go
is
with
it
courage.
is it 0.1% on average over
Yeah,
each
that's-
11-year period over what period of?
That's the
11 years.
that's the variation over the 11-year cycle. What Kyle's pointing out is that there's a bigger cycle.
Yeah,
There are
so
many bigger
that's,
cycles.
That's how you. That's the first time finding it. Like, so what was the previous 11 years, and the 11 years before that? Is it 0.1 every year?
Yeah, and it goes up
like,
and
Where
down.
did it spike? Where are the outliers?
What they call the solar maximum and the solar minimum.
Yeah,
And they-
so he's talking about
longer.
averages versus outliers.
Oh, I see. Yeah, I don't know that.
So on average is 0.1%, but like where do we break that number?
Yeah, so 2013 was a massive maximum. Massive maximum. Remember there were all those sunspots, and we had 3 X-class coronal mass ejections.
Yeah, I thought we were all gonna die. That's right.
Yeah, a lot of people thought we were all going to die.
Stay vigilant.
But anyway, I was just pointing out that but going back to your original point, which was Shock's original point, which is anyway, that's too confusing. But yeah,
Can you do that math, Brett? I'm sorry.
Oh yeah,
A little inside baseball here, folks. Just
Yeah.
stick with us.
So it would wipe out all communications and all the satellites, but it also would massively affect our electrical grid, and it would blow out all the transformers. And because this drives me crazy, because the transformers are made with that, you probably know this more than I do, that they're made with that particular kind of liquid that they think is incredibly bad for the environment. You know
No,
what I'm talking
I
about?
don't.
Okay. The big transformers are made with this specific kind of liquid that they thought destroyed the ozone layer back when that was still a thing.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, that means that we don't have transformers sitting in. We don't have a bunch of extras because they can't make them.
Oh,
Okay.
so we don't have backups.
Right.
No,
And
that's
it would take
that makes me feel better.
it would
about
take
this whole situation.
it would take decades to replace the transformers if a Carrington event had destroyed them. So it wouldn't just be like our power is knocked out and then in a couple of months they rebuild it. No, it would be decades, and by then civilization would have fallen and it would be over. There would be
Nobody's gonna be working on it.
Right, there would be no rebuilding. I mean, the only way you'd have power is if you lived in a power plant that was not nuclear.
Yeah, I guess like a nuclear power plant wouldn't be able to handle that.
Right,
event.
right. You would have to, like a nuclear power plant is too volatile to not have a greater grid supporting it. You know, sometimes it has to be able to pull power, and if it's not creating its own, like Shock was talking about that, so basically a Carrington event happens, all of our communications get wiped out, all of our satellites get wiped out, right? Our entire electrical grid gets wiped out, and then all of our nuclear power plants go meltdown.
Fukushima.
Yes. Now they don't explode because that isn't what happens with power plants. They're not going to blow up like a bomb.
No,
What happens is they get really hot and they melt their way down to the groundwater and then they explode.
What was happening with we were sending the robots in to figure out
Oh, with the Russian one,
It's like-
Chernobyl.
yeah, like
They were sending them into the coffin. Yeah.
like every little robot we sent in was just like, okay, let's see how far this one's gonna make it.
I think that was Fukushima.
Okay, yeah.
And that was Fukushima. But they still do this with Chernobyl. They're trying to check on the integrity of the coffin because it's been decades, and you have all those heavy neutrons slamming into the concrete, and it's starting to degrade. It's starting to actually powderize on the inside. So the coffin is not going to work for much longer.
Huh.
Don't you love that they call it the coffin? And if you look at it, that's what it looks like, an enormous sarcophagus that they poured over top of the entire third reactor that went. Anyway, yes, a Carrington event would destroy civilization. It would not cause a cataclysmic, like, surface erasing event like the stuff we're talking about. Like a big solar mass ejection would
Be a big solar annoyance.
Yeah, I still think that an impact has a greater chance for massive destruction because it can realign the planet. If
It
hits.
knocks it out of it.
Yes, and then you have this thing where the
Yeah,
whole
because it is kinetic energy.
right, and then you have this thing where the whole globe is moving and all the oceans recede to the poles, and then they come rushing back.
But that's what I wanted to point out is that, like, this electric universe idea being that the sun itself is a product of the plasma stream. Like
Yeah.
this plasma stream that is actually a
Galactic in
galactic
scope,
or
yeah.
even like galactic cluster
Yeah.
stream. So right now, this 2% variability might be, or if what he's saying, this is talking about 0.1% variability. So that variability might have to do specifically with the plasma stream's energy levels and its fluctuation.
Yeah.
Based on far larger, you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
So, if it's true, like in the Electric Universe guys are talking about Saturn having been possibly one of our suns,
Yeah.
based on this change in some type of fluctuation in the plasma stream and igniting Saturn
But a moment's respite.
in the past, and then that changing
Catastrophic
and-
solar regime change.
and igniting the sun, which we don't know that planet, whatever it is. So the variability could be based on that.
Yeah.
And it's 11-year
Like
cycle.
that whole part of the electric universe theory is what really kind of blew me off my rocker. Whenever you were explaining it to me when I was here a while back, it's the sonoluminescence experiment, like, where you just like put this pressure in,
Oh, yeah.
in like a liquid or plasma medium, and then it lights the little bubble in the middle of it. Like that's what our sun is like. So your
Exactly.
pressure is changing around our solar system, and it's like, okay, so now this planet is the sun,
Right.
And then it changes slightly. Now, okay, so now this planet is the sun,
Right.
And like we've had our turn, or at least that's what it seems like, and that's where you get this,
Right.
the black crust or whatever. I still don't, like I have not researched this at all. All I know
That's
is,
fine.
But
that's how
okay.
that's what I'm
Look,
thinking right
Snake
now.
roast. We don't
So,
research.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'm just throwing that shit out there.
So what we were
That's all I'm
talking about,
understanding.
so what we were talking about earlier about the moon being like it's during the break we were talking about this with Brett. It is locked in position because
Yeah, they call it
of
tidal
the
locking, but it could be something else.
They're called tidal locking, but we were talking about it being locked because of the electrical discharges between the two planets, or Earth and the Moon,
Yeah.
between the two bodies. So during solar regime change, if it was due to this plasma arc that's actually going through galaxies, whatever, and we go from igniting Saturn fizzles out, and then whatever body the sun was, that ignites, and because it becomes sort of a node in that electrical field, which is also magnetic, that all of the bodies in the solar system sort of realign themselves around the sun. In the process, anything passing or getting too close to another when its energy level is changing or being altered, or its polarity being altered, you're going to have these massive discharges. And that was the idea that, like, we pass, Venus passes us and discharges,
Yeah.
passes Mars and discharges. So the moon is also a body involved in this dance, and it discharges, and we have some, specific type of exchange going on with the moon electrically that ends up locking it in its position during the regime change.
Earthbound balance with this moon.
That's right.
During the transition, and there's all this other chaos that's happening during the transition.
Right. And if you look at gravity, like even in the standard model of gravity, if you look at the gravity of the Earth and the moon together, that is the balance that's keeping us in balance with the gravity of the sun.
Right. There's a
If
common
we
center of
remove
mass.
the moon,
Then we're gonna move closer, or whatever. Like
yeah, because our inertia would be less,
yeah,
right? We would move closer to the sun,
get hotter,
and we would start moving faster. So
It would be uncomfortable.
There's a common center of gravity between the Earth and the Moon.
exactly, and that's what the sun's dealing with.
Right.
Yeah.
But if you do that in electrical terms, it would be the same situation.
Right. It
Like
would be a
the
common.
same-
It would be a common center of attraction.
Right.
Yeah.
And we have a little sort of disposition with the moon, and we've got our own little local situation going on electrically.
Yeah.
Sun's got all kinds of crazy shit going on, and we're minutely adjusting all the time based on the sun's variability.
Yeah.
So a coronal mass ejection at the same time could cause, because the ejection from that body is going to have its own electrical properties.
Yeah. Probably gonna be alive.
Could be ultimate brain.
It's a miniature baby bolt. That's right. It's going. Wait. Who am I?
So it could, change our annual, time.
Oh, yeah.
Like that's what I'm saying.
So you're saying it could reorient us too?
It could reorient us. Think about it. What if what if the mass that was ejected was like planetary size? Like what if it was the size of Jupiter
It would be.
being ejected from the sun?
You mean mass? Okay, I'm sorry. Yeah, you meant mass, like the mass of Jupiter.
Yes, the
Okay,
mass
okay.
of Jupiter being ejected
Not just
from
the
sun.
size of it, but the mass.
The
Itself.
mass
Yeah.
itself being
Okay.
ejected from the sun, and like just a piece of it comes nearby us. Like most of it's not
Yeah, yeah.
hitting us. Some of it hits us,
Yeah.
but it's like we're gonna be sort of slingshotted.
It's
Yeah.
going to pull us around and
Yeah, that's
follow
true.
it a little bit.
Right,
then we're
and
gonna
it's
find
gonna-
another
Especially if it's
balance.
electrical in nature. Yeah.
Dude, it's gonna be all of the above, even considering the standard model.
And if the if the electromagnetic stuff is also gravity, that would pull the oceans. all
Yeah,
over the place.
absolutely. So that's what I'm saying. Like Robert Schoch's idea here to me is, I'm new to it, so of course it's my favorite.
It's the best.
It is the best right now. I'm just loving it.
So like,
I like the picture of the solar regime change where you have this galactic plasma arc, right? And it's going through Saturn. And so everything's oriented around Saturn. And then it shifts over to this other body, boop, boop, right? And then all the planets are like, boing.
Farewell.
You can imagine and how quickly that happens in an electrical or magnetic system. We see it in the lab, right? It's like you can do it, and it's almost instantaneous for small items, right? You've got it here, and everything's oriented around that, and then if it shifts over here, everything's like, right?
Yeah.
Now think about
Absolutely.
that happening on a solar system scale. Planets being like yanked, Now we were talking about that being because it's gravity, the inertia would not be affecting us, but still, think about what the sky
Yeah,
would
it's
do.
gravity itself, and like
So
what
every
we
particle-
experience
Yeah.
in terms of gravity is also electrical.
Right.
So the electrical shifting of our inertia would not necessarily
But think about the
be
sky. The sky would go. You'd be like, what just
Yeah.
happened?
This is
but like, how does that affect chemistry? And like, so as far above as
Yes.
below, like what's shifting
Yeah, this is
on the micro scale?
this is one of the
And
things.
us,
This is one of the things I was talking about. Like the electrical universe totally explains astrology.
Yeah, and so like every time I hear these conversations about the electric universe and like how things might work planetarily,
Yeah.
I can see easy references to social contexts.
yeah.
Like your relationships with people are kind of follow the same rules and
Right.
patterns that you see
Yeah.
way below and
if,
way above.
If everything is really electrically related, right, and we know that we are electrical beings and that all the matter in us is really energy and it's all being affected, then the moment of your formation is going to be affected by the particular electrical, stasis of that particular moment, and that's why you can go and do these big, complicated charts looking at the positions of the planets when you were born and see,
It all makes sense.
yeah.
All right, real quick. Backing up here to we were talking about our 2%
I saw a very large
variable
number.
star.
There's so much math on the screen right
Brett
now.
Brett dropped this, this modern verbiage on our sun, and they're calling it a 0.1% variable star. So he says the sun releases an estimated 384.6 yodawatts. of energy in the form of light and other forms of radiation. So
384 years you reach. Look as
so I
good
was
you will not.
basically-
Right? For those Yoda-bots?
Yeah, who was the guy that invented that character? James Luke? Anyway, moving on. So I asked him to do the math. So the variability, we were talking about 2%, and he's saying 0.1 is the modern idea. So the variability would be 3.846 sextillion watts.
Sexy.
So we have million, billion, trillion, quadrillion, quintillion, sextillion. 3.846
Kind of a big number.
sextillion watt variability.
So for reference, how many watts do we have running in this science cube right now?
20. I mean, less than that. Well, this vape that we've been using is on 80 watts,
Oh, dang.
but it's they're batteries. So
Yeah.
Very minutely focused into a coil.
4 coils.
4 coils. Okay, fine,
It's
buddy.
fancy as hell.
Anyway, that's quite a bit.
that was big.
It's a good one.
I think we're gonna take an early break. It's really hot in here.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Yeah. So we'll try to cool it down a bunch and come back and do a long last segment.
We only give you the best, folks. When we run out of fucking things to talk about, we take a break.
When we run out of the best, we go rest. All right. Snake Bros.
Snakes.
Greetings.
Angels and demons and monsters and Cirque. Snake Bros. What the fuck? Yeah.
Rap Bros.
I'm gonna redo that. Mess it up.
I thought that was great.
All right. No one's gonna know, but it's gonna be totally redone. And it's gonna be way more better.
It's been mastered.
All right.
Anyway, we took a break because it was hot.
Yeah.
And then we cooled it off, and it's already hot. So
Welcome to Texas.
And we're kind of being goofy because we've been talking about all this death and destruction and being blended. So
yeah, you got to be goofy about it.
yeah, like humor. It's
But dude,
everybody died. That's what we're trying to say, and you're all gonna die too.
Yeah. I like the way Robert Schock was putting it. Like, he's not trying to be doom and gloom.
Yeah, he's like, I'm not trying to support the preppers. I'm not
I have
selling
nothing to sell.
I'm not selling any prepping.
But he kind of is selling an idea based on, like, we need funding for more research. And I think that's cool. Like,
Yeah.
I think the stuff that the guy looks into is, it's not emotionally driven. He bases stuff off of what he sees, like the facts as they are, and even like the impact hypothesis. I got really into that, you know, and it's just like, yeah, this seems pretty obvious. Like, this is what happened.
So I've got a question. Like, is Kickstarter like the website, the service?
Yeah.
Where you can like raise funding for whatever.
Yeah.
Like, is that used for science? A lot.
Yes.
It can be, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Because
It can be used for anything. Yeah.
In my mind, it's like all scientific research is based on like a government grant or
Yeah, I know,
like,
right?
public money.
Not all,
but,
yeah, but-
because I love the idea of just like, hey, everyone in the United States, like I've got this great idea.
Yeah.
And
people do that. Yeah. People do that. Yeah.
One of the things that he was talking about is that the Egyptology aspect, like the politics over there, they are not going to accept a Kickstarter because you have to show them the money first.
Yeah.
And say, like, I have the money to do the project.
Isn't that how Kickstarter works though? Like people actually like,
No, I mean, like, they're not going to,
like,
but they're not going to accept it.
They won't even accept it, so in the Kickstarter, you couldn't even say, we'll be able to do this with the money.
Oh.
Because they won't accept it unless they already see the money.
Well, you can't put a caveat in the Kickstarter campaign saying that, like, hey, we need the money
raise the
because
money,
we're going to
show
go
them.
talk to these guys and see if we can get, like, a foot.
I mean, yeah, but that
Pretty
was-
much, he'd have to have the money.
Yeah.
And so you'd have to say, Kickstarter, all you people, give us all the money right now, and then
if they don't let us in,
if
we'll
they
give
don't
money
let us
back.
in, we'll try to pay you back somehow.
Yeah.
Now, there was a good Kickstarter campaign to go explore Ararat. I think I mentioned this on the show once. They had a Kickstarter campaign. They raised several $100,000 to go explore Ararat, and they met their goal and they went. I don't know what happened to them. I don't know if they ever came back.
Nobody ever heard from them again.
Well, I didn't. But that doesn't mean they didn't make it. But they were basically looking for the Ark.
What is it? How do you spell that? Ararat? Ararat?
Ararat. Yeah. I don't know. It's got a lot of A's and R's. That's all I know. And it is the T.
No, the Ark of the Covenant is...
No, they were looking for Noah's Ark.
Or Noah's Ark.
Supposedly grounded on Mount Ararat.
Oh, that's right. I remember seeing supposed, air quote, pictures of...
Yeah, there's the Ararat anomaly that the CIA found when they were sending the U-2 planes across from. They were launching them from, or like they were taking off from allies in the Middle East, Turkey, stuff like that. They were going over the mountains there, across Pakistan or whatever, towards the USSR. Okay, and they would turn on all the cameras right after they took off to make sure that they were all working. And they had multiple pictures of this thing they called the Ararat anomaly, which was this massive,
It was a large rectangle. Right?
constructed thing that was stuck in the ice, the perma ice up on top of the mountain.
That's fascinating. I think there's a lot of potential in ice in general on Earth.
So in Peru, like one of the things that fascinates me about Peru, like where we find all this anomalous stonework, is along the valley of the Inca, where all this anomalous stonework is. And they don't ever talk about this, but if you look at the mountainsides, they're terraced all the way up. And the terracing actually continues under the glacial ice on the tops of the mountains.
Whoa.
And what's interesting is that the very few people who have gone and looked at these, okay, so I had one guy who's a structural engineer talk to me about this. He was like, look, no one will tell you this, but that terracing is actually the most fantastic thing in Peru because the terraces are enormously long and each one is holding back hundreds of thousands of tons of material. Right? He's like, whoever made those terraces, and they're made of stone. You can see they're made of this. They're faced in stone, and they're making a flat part, and then there's another one in the flat part. And he's like, they're holding back all this material. Whoever made those stone walls for those terraces, they fucking knew what they were doing. That was not peasants like throwing down rocks to hold dirt. Somebody like majorly engineered all those mountainsides, and it goes up both sides, and they go all the way up into the very tops where you can't even breathe and no crops grow. Which means that whoever did it was doing it when you could grow crops up there. Because that's the only reason
your
for terracing.
idea, though. Your idea, we were
They
talking
started
a
from
long
the top.
time ago. They started from the top.
That's right.
Because down below it was either water or whatever
Yeah.
cataclysmic shit. So
They're actually older at the top than they are at the
so
bottom.
you have this flood, and then at the top you start farming and you cut some terraces, and then
Right.
the water recedes, and then
and you
cut
have to
more.
move down. Yeah.
And the water recedes and you cut more. And so they cut them all the way down these mountains. And it's like, you look at these mountains in these areas and there's all these terraces cut down, certain ones. Other ones, they're not.
Right.
So you could possibly look at it and like,
Figure out
what's the height of the ones that have terraces?
Yeah. They're the
You know,
ones
but
that
they
have
ended up-
glacial ice
But
on
they
top.
ended up flattening those. That's the other problem.
Yeah.
They took the tops off of them.
Yeah. But I bet you there's underground. There's probably underground varas in those mountains. They had to emerge somewhere, right?
What's a vara?
Okay, so in the last show we discussed the you know Zoroastrianism. I won't go into the whole thing, but basically you end up with this very ancient monotheistic religion where the god, very much like the god with Noah in the Bible, was saying, hey, you need to build this thing to survive this cataclysm that's coming. Except that in this case, he was saying you need to build this thing underground. Avara is what they called it, but it's basically a hypogeum.
Okay.
Okay.
It's basically a Noah. Zark. Noah's Ark.
One word. Noah's Ark. There's a Z in there.
Yeah. Noah Zark.
Noah's Ark.
The Vara in the Zendavest.
So Ararat may actually have Avara in it. That massive square thing that they saw on the top may be where the ice is kind of carved into the Vara that was hidden in the mountain. Instead of an actual boat, you know.
Something about Lake Titicaca, like
yeah. Lake Titicaca is
like we don't really know what formed it.
It's at 11,000 feet. It's the hot. Well, I mean, really, if you look at it,
like who constructs a giant swimming pool on top of the mountain?
well, and it's enormous too. Like I can't remember the numbers. Maybe Brett can look it up. But the square miles that Lake Titicaca covers is enormous.
It's big.
Basically, I look at it, and it also has the only known in the world example of like freshwater versions of what are otherwise only marine animals.
Seahorses.
Yes. Yeah. So it seems like a tidal wave puddle to me.
Yeah.
You know?
Unless somebody made it. Right? Everything is suspect now.
Everything was built.
I like this idea of what you guys were getting into during the break, early on in the break, about the chemistry of what is happening in these like massive, cosmic scale plasma arcs or whatever.
There you go. Titicaca is 22,400 square miles.
Oh, that's fun.
It is enormous, dude.
That's
It is one of the largest lakes in the world. I mean, it's freaking, and it's at 10,000 feet above. It's at like 11,400 feet. You can't grow any crops there, and yet there's these enormous constructions, like. Why can't I remember the name?
There's like a port city up there.
Tiwanaku.
Yeah.
Tiwanaku and Pumahuku are up there, and they are some of the most anomalous ancient. I'm sorry, Kyle, to interrupt.
fed by 27 rivers.
Yeah, 118 miles long by 50 miles wide at its widest point. If somebody built it,
Probably started
it
out
was
as
a big ass swimming pool.
26 rivers.
Wait, so it's fed by rivers?
Yeah, there are rivers coming off the mountains.
I thought this was just a nasty puddle. Like, it got filled up once and then it's just a bunch of dirty shit. Like,
No. It's got rivers coming to it, but they're not major ones like the
Well,
Congo
there's
and-
going to be precipitation in the areas.
Yeah, and it's in a basin, so there's going to be water running towards it.
So it's not like a Tanaha death hole.
No, it's not.
Well, the Tanaha Death Hole has seasonal rivers. Every time it rains,
Yeah, you're right.
It is in a giant canyon, and those are usually made by rivers.
every time it rains, there's like a bunch of minute little rivers that run into the Tanaha Hole.
Yeah.
Would not be actually described as rivers most of the time by normal people.
27
Which is the
things of water running.
which is 72 backwards. So
That's right. It's 72 backwards. It's the right number.
Yeah.
Anyway, so what were you saying about the chemistry?
So, yeah, I was thinking
Not
about
you,
the-
him.
No, him.
Okay, yeah, but I was thinking about it more. So we think about like is it CETA? Like solar?
Yes, the solar-induced dark age.
Dark age. So when that happens and things change electrically on the macro scale and cause all this crazy bullshit that we're speculating right now.
Yeah.
Like what happens on our scale? Like on the human level and then like on the chemical level, the micro. Like does Coke become Dr. Pepper? what exactly happens? Like on
That's a good question.
From our perspective, like are we gonna see like would we expect or should we expect any like crazy changes whenever something like that happens? Like in the midst of all the chaos of all the like lightning bolts by the by the
So,
Horde.
what this made me think of was the problems with this idea of evolution. We were talking about this the other night. Like, evolution seems plausible when you're talking about adaptation, but not speciation. So, what is it that causes one species of thing to jump to another?
Like an event like this, maybe.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So, like, I don't see that
It's like
as
a
a
seed.
This is one of the.
Well, we know that okay, we don't know this, but the evidence points to the fact that, or the idea that every extinction event is followed by a massive explosion of life of entirely new forms that have never been seen before.
This is what I'm talking about. So when
Yeah.
y'all brought up the chemistry idea, I was like, holy shit! Like this is what. It just made me think. Like, what are the possibilities? Like when I listened to the guy, the Electric Universe guy.
Thorn,
Yeah.
Thorn,
Yeah, Thornhill. Wall Thornhill. Walton Thornhill. Thorn. Thank you. Thank you.
Walter.
Yeah, Wall.
yeah,
Yeah. He
Dr.
talks
Walter,
about
Walter.
these events that happen. They're it's like high powered electrical crazy shit going on, and that is kind of governing the cosmological situation. So it's actually a full scale situation. It's not just gravity. It is everything going on. So we have these cataclysmic events. They wipe out an entire like genre of species, and then but at the same time these
Genetics become plastic.
these plasma forms that are like the electrical like the lightning strikes is what I'm thinking of when I say plasma forms. I'm thinking of like these bolts of lightning coming down and interacting with the matter on the surface of the planet,
Hello.
jumbling it up,
Yeah.
literally on the atomic level.
So like is DNA what impacted by this?
Oh, absolutely.
Like that's
Exactly.
That's the question.
Is that what the because there's radiation going on inside these plasma forms. And this is what he was
Keep your
saying.
life to your own.
Wall Thornhill is saying like we need to study plasma more.
Yeah.
There needs to be so much more
So
on this. So could it possibly at the same time wipe out a whole bunch of things and then remake?
Well,
a
yeah,
bunch
it's the
of
same thing.
things
Like,
in the
okay,
same
so
process.
this planet is just a normal planet, and this other planet is just a normal planet, and then all of a sudden this other planet becomes the sun.
So
Yes.
yeah,
That's the electric universe hypothesis, I guess, or even Velikovsky. It's like one planet becomes the sun, the other planet. What happens to the life on that planet, or does it all change?
Well, I mean, I think it's all changing with respect to scale. Proportion. So it's like you've got these big changes that are changing on a planetary level, but on our level, like human, and on the micro level, like on the atomic level, we'll experience similar changes, and who knows what those would be.
so in 1908, something exploded over Tunguska in Siberia, and it may have been a plasma event because there's no crater. Okay, it's the same deal, but it knocked down all the trees.
Well, I thought it was like one of the
Bolide.
yeah, bolide.
Yeah, that's the theory. But we're going with the idea that if the Younger Dryas impact hypothesis is actually talking about a solar or some kind of plasma event, if the Tunguska thing was also a plasma event, because there's no evidence that there is evidence that there was an object, but it's the same kind of evidence that Schock was talking about is also evidence of plasma stuff, okay? So, because there's no crater. That's the main thing. There's no fucking impact crater. But we know something exploded with a great deal of force or whatever in the atmosphere and knocked down all these trees for 800 square miles. The life around there has gone crazy. It killed it all. Okay, but they've gone there and they've found all these new species of ants and...
That's right. I
Yeah.
forgot about that.
Okay, so yes.
Oh my god, that's fucking badass.
I've been waiting to say that.
Oh God, that's the second time I've gotten goosebumps sitting in the science booth.
Yeah. That's what this is all about.
2 rounds of goosebumps.
Dude, that's freaking badass. Keep telling us about that.
Yeah, keep going.
Yeah, so when they finally first of all, it was very much like the Krakatoa or the earlier the Thera explosion. It was heard around the world. It was really interesting because it turns out that people had just invented the device that they used to detect massive shockwaves going through the atmosphere. I mean, they had just invented them in England, and they set them up, and then and you're like, what the fuck was that? And then for a long time, they thought it was errors.
Error.
But like, so way later, when they find out, wait, something exploded in Russia, they went back and looked at that old data. They're like, oh, this is what this is. And it went around the world. That shockwave went around the world like 7 or 8 times. Okay, so whatever it was an enormous explosion. And like I said, like you can look at pictures of the trees flattened from a central area. They're all flattened outwards from a central area, okay? And these were old-growth taiga trees. They're enormous, okay? The first Russian that tried to get there to investigate it was like 20 years later, and he had the hardest time. Like, imagine you're hiking through the woods, and all of a sudden, every tree has fallen down in your direction.
Trying to stab you.
Try to get through that shit. no matter how much you circumnavigate it, they're always falling down in your direction if you're trying to get to the center of it, right? So yeah, so you can look at pictures of it now. You can still see, even now with Google Earth, you can still see the stumps of the trees or the trunks of them all laying down underneath all the new growth that's happened. But the flora and the fauna there have gone absolutely insane. They cataloged, I mean, this guy that went there, he cataloged hundreds of new species just by chance. Okay. So yes, I think that
Coke does become Dr. Pepper.
that's right.
So that's why, like, we have these layers that we're, these seabeds where you have, we've talked about this, like, you get this whole group of ancient fossils.
Yeah.
And then there's some crazy layer, and then above that is another just completely different
shit. Yeah. So here's another thing. I've been wanting to talk about the dolmens, and I'm not going to go into it.
It's almost like the ice cores. Hold on. Okay. Before that, it's almost like the ice cores, like where we can see really minute time periods, like every year.
Yeah.
And you see what's going on there.
Yeah.
The layers we're looking at with these life forms are the cycles of some other thing.
Of some recurring destruction or even like just solar regime change or whatever.
Exactly.
I mean, it might just be that the massive galactic plasma thing just shifting a little bit.
A tiny bit.
And changing, not necessarily destroying shit, but just changing how life works.
Yeah, it's like
Suddenly everything has 8 arms instead of 4 or whatever.
things just shift to find the new balance.
That's right. Like the shoes.
What?
The New Balance shoes.
Oh.
But no, like all of life is electrical. Like everything about it. We've been talking about the neurological situation. Like we discuss consciousness and the brain. We're like, come on, these materialists try to say that the brain is your mind.
Right.
We're talking about that's all electrical and it's like physical and we can describe it, we can define it in certain ways. But the consciousness is something else. We have suggested multiple times.
Like the brain is a material thing that is building an electrical antenna that's picking up consciousness somehow.
It's just such a
Or turning it into it.
It's a hard thing to speculate on because
Your brain isn't right because the electrical stuff isn't right
Journey well.
for you to figure it out.
There's that.
That's what we're getting at.
That's what we're trying to say.
There's that.
Like,
and-
once it changes, we'll understand. Maybe
Yeah.
if it changes the right way. Who knows? Like, there is the question of like you see the progression, the quote unquote progression of life, right? And this points to the idea of like a greater universal consciousness, right? Because there is an increase in complexity of life over time, at least as far as we can see it in the material sense. Right, you have these very simple life forms at the very beginning, down to the Permian extinction, where we find them. They're all sea creatures, and they're arthropods, and and crustaceans. Right, they don't have really complicated brains with thousands of millions.
But
of
they
folds.
also embed themselves in the sediment at the bottom of an ocean. Like, that's why we find them everywhere.
Okay, I see what you're saying, but I think that
Like, while they're living, they do that.
why is there? This is a question I've had, and this may be tangential. I don't know, but why is there a Valley of the Whales in Egypt?
What's a what? Valley of the Whales?
In the desert, the Sahara around Egypt, there is a massive valley that is full of whale fossils, and I mean they're almost, some of them are full size, and you can see that they were in mid decomposition, right? Where you're like, what is that strange rock form? And then you realize that it's a whale body that was in the middle of decomposing, and this valley is full of them. I mean, like, how is it just whales in this fucking valley? Why are there only whales there?
Like no other fossils.
Right.
So
This implies, like, what I'm getting at is like just how the planets reorder themselves around a new solar regime change. This may be operating all the way down to the microscopic level. This is why we have whales all in this valley, and only like the shellfish over here in this stuff, and you know what I mean?
Well,
now you have some stuff
those
mixed
bones
in.
are going to be bigger, so they're going to have different
Yeah.
physical. What's the word I'm looking for?
Right,
They'll
like
be moved.
if there was a tidal wave, it would drop them first.
Yeah.
Because they're
Yeah,
big.
yeah. When you're talking about the blender, the whale bones are all going to be in one place because they're bigger than the human bones.
Yeah.
But they're fossilized, so that means they would have had to have been fossilized, like buried in some sediment,
and now it's been
and
worn
then
away.
the sediment would
Hello.
have to have worn away and
That's
gotten
right.
taken away somewhere
right.
else, and then they would get moved to a valley.
That's right.
Yeah, that's fucked. I have no idea.
So he points out there was a solar maximum in 1907,
life
which
to
is
your
1
own.
year before the Tunguska event in 1908.
And
Shit.
and according to Robert Schock, we're like right in that period now again.
Yeah.
The solar maximum.
Yeah.
Again. So, if you are not hearing this show, it might be because we just got nailed.
That's right.
But if you're listening to
If
it,
you're
everything's
not
okay.
If you're not hearing this show, you're not hearing this. So why am
So
I?
everything's okay.
So, just a side note, I literally checked my bug out gear on the break.
Oh yeah, that's right.
We got all of the science gear. I was like, dude,
I better check my bug out gear.
I'm gonna go check this shit.
I mean, we're not selling prepper stuff, but you might want to have a bug out box.
Yeah, I'm just gonna go check and make sure that everything's okay. Like all the gear is still solid. And it was. But
Yeah, so describe that. Like you didn't build a fallout shelter, but you did have a bug out box that you put.
yeah, two weatherproof Pelican boxes that Archer and I put together and hid.
Keep that in mind. Because we'll probably get to them before they crash.
I know. Yeah, y'all should just forget this whole conversation right now.
No, so like what did you put in it? Like how?
Yeah, what's in it is the question.
So yeah, like I forgot like what was going on whenever we did this. I think it might have just been 2012. Like it was like November or something, and Archer and I were like, "Hey, let's just like put some money into like." He had these 2 Pelican cases. Like, let's fill these with survival gear and hide them at Kyle's house. Yeah, that is absolutely something that I should not have said on the podcast. So
No one knows where my house is. Don't
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So yeah, it was like we did that, and then that was like or like 8, maybe something like that. It was a long time ago, and then we
It was
all this shit.
right before the tinfoil hat party.
Oh wait, so it was 6 years ago. So it was
No, the tinfoil hat party was at the end of 2012.
2012. Yeah,
Yeah, it was the end of the world.
end of the world. So it's 2018. So
Yeah.
So after the last segment, I walked out. I hope all that gear is still okay. I really just like fucking went and checked it. Like I pulled it out. I was like, yeah, this fuck yeah, Pelican. Like Pelican is a badass case.
So at the end of the show, we're selling Pelican cases.
Everyone should buy one. It's great. Apparently it works for about 6 years.
So we're talking about the radiation, and like the area around the Tunguska explosion is anomalously irradiated. Okay. So this is one of the things why so many people are like, well, maybe it was an alien spaceship because it came down and exploded, its power plant exploded and irradiated, whatever. They're trying to figure out how this could be a bolide, but it also caused all this radiation.
If the bolide was full of radiated material.
Which they're not finding.
Okay, so no.
It's just the ground and all the stuff is irradiated, but there are no radioactive things.
Unless the material had completely vaporized and then just passed its radiation into the...
Right, which is very strange. It should have left pieces.
Yeah.
All right. Well, so this is what I'm getting at, because, and I've been trying I've been trying to think about this for a while. Like dolmens are all, and we've talked about these before in the show. But they're these anomalous rock constructions that are all over Europe. Okay. And it basically looks like somebody threw up giant slabs and kind of stacked them together and made buildings. Some of them are really refined and have like little holes in them, like they're speakers of some kind. But this is what's interesting, is the dolmens themselves and the area around them are always way lower in the natural radiation level of everything else around it.
They had a shield. Like the dolmen itself was a shield.
The dolmen itself was somehow, or it's whatever it is involved in blocking the radiation that has caused the local radiation of all the entire planet, right?
What are the dolmens usually made out of? Like what kind of rock or stone?
They're usually made out of, like, as far as I know, they're made out of limestone, but there's plenty that are different. They're made out of all kinds of different materials, diorite. But this is the thing. They look like acoustical objects. And on the insides, they have these weird waveform petroglyphs carved into the rock. Okay, like 3 lines that zigzag down, and then another set of 3 lines that zigzag down, and they kind of mirror each other or whatever. Like it looks like that they were saying, here's what we were doing with this weird box that you can't, and some of them have no entrance. There is no hole, and you can't get in it at all. There's no way to get inside of it. It's just an enclosed square area. And this is the other thing. The outsides look all rough, but the insides are always perfectly cut. Like they're sharp and they're cut. Like it was the interior space that mattered to whoever was making these
Wait,
things.
is that true with every dolmen?
Yes.
Okay, so the thing we found in Big Ben wasn't a dolmen.
Well, the word dolmen can be stretched. The ones that I'm talking about where they're completely enclosed, that's true. Now, there are ones that people call dolmens where it's just like, it looks like a glacial erratic, where there's like a couple of rocks and there's a gigantic one sitting on top
the one
of
we
it.
found was just like a giant flat rock.
Those are also called dolmens.
Supported.
Or in England, they're called long barrows because they're usually buried in dirt. And once they dig them out or if something washed all the dirt away, you have this giant rock sitting on these few. And those are also called dolmens or whatever. But the ones I'm talking about are enclosures. They're little bitty enclosures. The top rock is always way bigger. It's really specific. The top rock is always much larger and much heavier than any of the ones that they used in the sides. But the important thing is that most of them have these little holes. The holes are always
Like the pyramid
what?
shafts. Like those kind
Well, they're bigger than that, but they're variable sizes. Okay, and it looks like the holes were tuned. Okay, they're always below the center of the front rock. The front rock, by the way, is shaped like a lens. It's always shaped like a lens. Okay, and there's a hole in it that's always below the center of the lens itself. The holes are of variable sizes. Sometimes they had plugs in them that don't really fit right, like almost like think of a megaphone. It's got this thing sticking out that vibrates. Okay, the interiors are always carved perfectly, and then the whole area around it has way less radiation than what is the normal background.
Sounds like you would need to be in an irradiated place for a long time to figure out how to build one of those.
Yeah.
Well, unless you had like done some serious science before the event happened and you
Right.
were able to prep for it.
Whoever did these.
But if that was the case, it seems like, well, I don't.
Speculation.
yeah, so I've been
I'm
wanting
speculating.
I've been wanting you to look at them because they look like there's something audio going on with them.
I'm speculating because it seems like if there was a clear way to focus those frequencies away from the central area, that we, because of all of our work with nuclear power plants and all this kind of stuff, we might have figured out something similar.
Yeah.
If it was spatial, if it had to do with audio,
Yeah.
if it had to do with especially the audible spectrum.
So it's a known thing.
If it has to do with radiation and the audio spectrum, if the audio spectrum if something acoustical has something to do with how you can defend from the radiation spectrum, I think we might know about it.
Already.
Yeah.
Oh, you mean we would already know about it, and since we
We
don't.
would already know about it in terms of these chambers and how to deal with it, but because there's really nothing related to the acoustical situation in a room and radiation happening there, that seems
Well, it may be
not very probable.
all that's left of some really complex system.
That's true.
That could have been like the fucking last man standing.
Right,
their
and it was
structure.
making some kind of shield.
Now, the idea that something acoustically tuned might be the result of some tuning due in a higher frequency.
Yeah.
Like
so
in
here's
gamma rays.
here's another interesting thing. All these dolmens, the ones that I'm talking about, like I was showing you pictures of, where they have the little holes, they're all known at the time between
Journey
times,
well.
dawn or dusk, to emit infrasound, like lots of it.
Wait, so these holes you're talking about, are they actual through?
Yeah.
They're not like the little.
They go to the interior.
Mortar and pestle holes.
No, they go to the interior of the
Okay.
object.
All right.
That's why I was saying to me they seem like speaker boxes. You've got this enclosed area, and there's a one hole.
Oh, that's what you're showing me pictures of.
Yes.
Before we started the segment. Okay.
And like they always have they always have a tilt. It's up towards the hole. It always, like, in other words, it points upwards. It's really it's complicated. Like, there's a lot of different things you have to think about at the same time. But like the interior is always perfectly carved and flat. Sometimes they have petroglyphs on the inside that show some sort of what looks like waves.
Yeah, it seems like they're projecting, or like you could design a room to project an energy
Yeah.
level
Yeah.
from the inside. It doesn't necessarily have to be audible,
Right. It's infrasound.
but it would be
It's infrasound that they
with
make.
the-
You can't
with
hear
the-
it, but it's scary.
with the proper energy input.
It could be audible, yeah.
It could be audible, but
Yeah.
it doesn't have to be.
Right.
But it doesn't seem like something that would be protecting or altering the radiation levels. That's what I was going on. Like this idea of dolmens being protecting from radiation.
Yeah, I don't know why the area around them is less irradiated. I'm just saying it is. I don't know if that has anything to do with the dolmen itself. Maybe they picked those spots because its property already existed there.
So,
That's
I like Brett's idea. I'm watching the chat right now. Like, what if there were warning alarms?
that's
Yeah, converted radiation into sound.
Yes.
oh
They
shit.
start going.
Yeah.
That's
like,
why there's
"Fucking
less that's why there's less irradiated shit there, because they were taking the energy from that
pushing it
and
into sound.
converting it
Yeah.
into sound energy,
And they're still doing it.
and it's still happening.
Yeah.
Holy shit, that's a great idea.
That's
You should have-
fantastic, Brett.
You should have not unmuted your mic to say that. But I'm glad you typed it instead.
Yeah.
Shut the fuck up, Brett.
So what do we got
That's
on time
really
here?
cool.
What do we got on time?
Yeah, we're good. We're done.
Yeah. All right, that's about it for this.
I wanted to say something
episode
else.
51. Go ahead.
Nope.
51.
Yeah, we'll do it next time. Just keep you hanging.
Cliffhanger.
Episode 51.
No, it was a totally different, completely different than the direction you guys went.
Okay.
So we'll do that.
All right, so you guys can get a hold of us at brothersoftheserpent@gmail.com, or you can go to the website, the blog, and comment there. That would be great, brothersoftheserpent.com. Thanks to Kyle Allen and Ty Stone for all the music. Thanks to Laura Allen for the intro, which is badass. Thanks to Brenner for all the content. Thanks to thanks to Brett England for keeping us on the straight and narrow in terms of the truth. And that's it, ladies and gentlemen. Good night, Adamu. Go get some snakes.
Put out new mycelium! Ugh, new roots! It's branching, Exile! It's put out new mycelium! New roots!
Greetings. Keep your life to your own.
Not have but a moment's respite.
Greetings. Journey well.
Got another one for you. Seems risky. Stay safe.